You know, to my complete surprise, Professor Buzz Hickey, played by Jonathan Banks, ended up being a really welcome and enjoyable addition to the fifth season of Community. You know, being an actor who I know from more dramatic stuff, Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, I didn't necessarily think he would fit in with the more comedic world of Community. I didn't necessarily think his, more stoic nature would mesh with the rest of them. But even as somebody who is playing a character very similar to Mike Ehrmantraut from the Breaking Bad franchise, he was able to fit in very well. He brings the same stoicness to it, but that works as a very humorous contrast to the more upbeat nature of a lot of the other characters. While still being kind of fun to his character at the same time. I think he was basically created to be a replacement for Pierce, another old guy, even though their personalities are very different. Hickey isn't known for being like a bigot or anything like that. He's not known for being quite as crazy as Pierce is. But he started off as that kind of replacement. And I feel like in this season, he's what I would call an unofficial main character. He's not credited as a main character. He's not in the opening credits. He appears in the end credits listed as a special guest star, I assume because of his work on Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. He started to kind of become a bigger name. But he appears in 11 out of the 13 episodes of the season, and in every single episode that he's in, he has a major significant role, and he's usually right there along with the rest of the main cast, being a big part of the plot and getting a ton of screen time for the most part. He doesn't appear into the second episode of the season, because the first episode was more kind of like wrapping up stuff from the previous season and getting the new season started up. There was a lot to kind of do there. But once he gets acclimated, in the second and maybe by the third episode, he becomes such an important part of it, just like everybody else does there. He makes an appearance on the Season 5 poster, and inside the universe of the show, he becomes part of what was originally the study group, and then becomes the Save Greendale community, getting involved there with all the different plots of the series. The character's a bit interesting because he has this whole sad backstory to a certain extent. He lost his job as a cop, being on probation after a confrontation with another officer, as we see here. And if you look there on the bottom right, you see that he has a restraining order against him, perhaps from the same cop who he had that confrontation with. So he is a character that has this past that is very dark and disturbing and kind of sad, and that shows up in his kind of stoic nature. But he's still able to take that and be a character who is really funny, like I said, in contrast with the more upbeat nature of the other characters in the series.